My name is Dave Perry. I'm the UBC Job Corps Carpentry Instructor in Grafton, Mass. This is my safety video for the Workforce Education 106 program. Today we're going to do a video going back very basics to unfurling and stowing an extension cord. Here at Job Corps, a lot of our students don't even know what extension cords are when they get into the program, so I thought I'd do this. It may seem simple, but it's something that we have to teach the students that enroll on our program. So let's get going. The first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we have an extension cord that we need. If we only need a 25-foot extension cord, we don't want to unfurl a 100-footer or a 50-footer. And the opposite is true too. If we need a 100-footer, we don't want to use 4 25s. We want to make this as simple as possible. So what I like to do is I like to take the female end of the cord and I like to put it in the area where I'm working and then unfurl my cord. While I'm doing that, I'm doing a visual inspection on the cord along with a physical inspection with my hands to see if there's any cracks or anything wrong with the cord, if they're defective, if there's any breaks in it, if there's any of the wires that are sticking out, slices, anything. So once I've done that, now I know it's safe to plug in. So I'm going to plug it into an outlet and then go back to my workstation. Now the cord it could draw electricity through it once you plug it in. Before we plug the cord in though, what we want to do is we want to make sure that the tool that we're using is in the off position if it has a toggle switch, such as my router here. If it's a trigger switch, we want to check that trigger switch. We want to pull it and make sure we hear that click off noise before we plug in our extension cord to it. So I've already checked that. That's in the off position. We can plug this in safely. Now we know that the cord is energized and the tool is ready to use. Once we make sure our area is safe, but that's another safety video. Right now I want to concentrate only on the extension cord, unfurling it, and then stowing it at the end of the day. So once we know that, one of the important things when we're getting ready to put our extension cords away is we want to make sure that the tool itself is unplugged from the extension cord. We also don't want to wrap up this cord as it is right now. There's a very little chance that there might be a draw of electricity that's in there. And during the workday, from 7 o'clock when we started until 11:45 when we went to break, we may have left that cord out. It's on the ground. You've got man lifts that are driving by, scissor lifts that are driving by. Something may or may not have gotten dropped on that. At the end of the day, it's a good chance to examine that cord one more time. A couple of things will happen there. If we identify a cord that got damaged during the day that didn't show it while we were using it, we can give that physical and visual inspection. Now we know that cord has to be taken out of service before tomorrow morning at 7:15. You don't have to go run into the foreman and say my cord is no good. Now you have to wait and find another cord. If he knows at 3 o'clock the day before that cord got damaged during the training day or the work day, that foreman can make arrangements to have that cord taken out of service and a new one put in before the next work day or training day starts. So when we're going to do the inspection on the cord at the end of the day, what's the first thing we should do? Anybody have any answers?
Unplug it from the wall.
What'd you say, Mark?
Unplug it from the wall.
Absolutely. We want to make sure that this cord is not connected to an electrical outlet. So we're going to walk by, we're going to take the cord out of the outlet. Now we know that this cord is safe to run our hands by. If during the day something happened to this cord, now's the time to find out whether or not we can use it tomorrow. Excuse me, and that's going to give our foreman the chance to replace it, get this out of service, so we don't lose any work time the next day. We're going to do the same thing in reverse. We're going to inspect the cord visually and physically with our hands for any defects that may have happened during the workday. Once this is done, and the cord is okay, if we think it's still usable for the next day and nothing's happened to it, we can furl it back up and stow it. If we think there's something wrong with it, we want to make sure that we identify that area, bring it to the attention of your foreman so he or she can replace that. When we take it out of the outlet, that's something that I missed. We want to check the prongs. We want to make sure that we have the 2 prongs and the ground prongs still intact and ready for use in the morning. If the prongs are bent, broken, or missing, we take that right out of service, bring it to the attention of the foreman so he or she can replace it. So when we're wrapping these cords up, a lot of our students do is they do the elbow thing. Puts a lot of tension on these turns here, which in turn, the metal inside here that conducts the electricity get weak from the same bending. What I like to do, and I tell all the students, is full hands out, nice easy turns, pull the cord in, try and take the cord, let it wrap up by itself, by its natural lie. Turn it, pull both our ends over to the side so they're both hanging on the side, and then we can properly stow it on our hook. Ideally, that's what we want to do. We don't want to throw them in the gang box. We don't want to throw them in the corner. If we keep them in the gang box, what could happen? Say we take all our cords, we throw them in the bottom of the gang box.
The tools could make rips in the cord.
Absolutely. We get our cords in there. The men and women that we're working with and for come in, they start taking their tool belts off, they start taking their saws, their routers, whatever we're using, and we put them on top of those cords. That's not a good practice to do. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that those cords are stowed away in a way that they're not going to be damaged by what we do with the stuff that's in the gang box. So if we have the opportunity to put them on a hook, that's ideal, and we do have that here. But on a lot of the job sites, we're not going to have that opportunity. So are there any questions for what we just talked about?
What possibility would happen if you use the extension cord with the ribbon?
It could short out first, and if it's plugged in, if somebody picks that up and it's got a tear in the insulation in it, now you're exposing yourself to that electrical current that comes through the cord. There shouldn't be a current that comes through the cord unless there's a draw on it by the tool. But you could still get electrocuted by that. So that's not something that you want to play with, and it's not something that you should have in service at any time. At any time. Any more questions? Okay, so today's lesson, we talked about how to unfurl a cord, how to inspect it before we use it. We talked about how to inspect a cord before we stow it at the end of the day. Any questions for anybody? No?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you for your attention. Cut.